Hello, my friends. How are you today? Welcome to another episode of 30 Albums for 30 Years. You know the drill. Right now, we are evaluating albums from 1965. In fact, the 30 most impactful albums from that year. And today's album is Donovan's What's Been Did and What's Been Hid, released on Pi Records in the UK, May 14th of 1965. In the US, it was released on Hickory Records under a different name, Catch the Wind. That's June of 1965. So let's check out this album, Donovan's What's Been Did and What's Been Hid. One of the more under-discussed musicians to emerge in the 1960s is the man known as Donovan. His real name is Donovan Phillips Leach. Donovan is a Scottish-born songwriter who first emerged as a European version of Bob Dylan, or at least he was marketed that way, but he really is much more than a Dylan clone. Born in Glasgow, Donovan moved to England as a youth where he listened to folk music and began playing the guitar. After high school, he enrolled in art school but bailed out with a plan to live sort of a beatnik type existence in search of experience and enlightenment. So he traveled with his guitar and it landed him near St. Albany, where he spent a great deal of time hanging around the area's folk scene and adopted his signature cross-picking guitar style. He also began writing songs. Donovan then traveled to Manchester to further pursue music and busked to make ends meet. He was playing in the streets for money. In 1964, he signed a deal with Pi Records in London and recorded. At this time, he also began a friendship with the Rolling Stones' Brian Jones. He then began dating Jones's ex-girlfriend, Linda Lawrence, who was the mother of Jones's son, and she became Donovan's muse. They eventually married. Much of Donovan's music at the time was somewhat derivative of Bob Dylan's, and the press presented them as transcontinental rivals. It really was a manufactured rivalry that was further promoted when the two appeared in Bob Dylan's documentary, Don't Look Back. In 1965, Donovan began appearing regularly on the British hit TV show Ready, Steady, Go, and he found stardom. He then released his debut album, What's Been Did and What's Been Hid, in the UK on Pi Records 4 days after his 19th birthday. And again, in the US, the album was released as Catch the Wind on Hickory Records in June of 1965. While the early album certainly showcases the influence of Bob Dylan and other American folkies, there are also some elements of American blues and Donovan's own personality. Donovan later moved towards electric music, like Dylan did, but became a symbol of the hippie and flower power movement with hits like Sunshine Superman and Mellow Yellow, which we will discuss in a later show. All right, let's do this thing. Let's drop the needle on side number 1, track number 1. And the song is Josie, which was released as a single but did not chart, despite being a pretty strong tune. In fact, it was the first released single by Donovan in the UK that did not chart. The song showcases Donovan's fine acoustic guitar playing, his vocal technique, and his harmonica playing, which, again, as you've listened to me, you know I'm not a fan of Dylan's harmonica playing. I think actually Donovan's is better at the age of 19. Josie is a really sweet song and a great introduction to this album. Let's check it out. Next up is Catch the Wind. This was the big hit from the album, and it's one of Donovan's most celebrated songs. The single reached number 4 in the UK and number 23 in the US. The version heard on the album is not the more orchestrated one that was being heard on the radio. There was a singles release of Catch the Wind. The album version is more stripped down and features only Donovan. Many artists have covered the song, including Chet Atkins, Cher, Eartha Kitt, Sammy Hagar. and dozens of others. Very varied artists, in fact, if you look at the list. So Donovan speaks about the song and says the following. As a first song, and it was my first single, it is very well crafted. It is about a relationship that one can't have, lost love, unrequited. And actually, it's about Linda, although I didn't meet her until a year later. So once again, it was prophetic. And even though, if I say so myself, as a first song, it is quite amazing. This is not being naive in any way. It is being very knowing. The melody is very similar to the opening melody of Bob Dylan's Gates of Eden. Roger McGuinn pointed that out to me. Songs come from within. Music has the power over all the other arts, wherever it comes from. And it's hard to talk about your own music. There are those tones, and when these tones are sounded, they presumably touch different parts of us. And when we are sad, and when we hear a sad song, are we elevated? Generally we are. When we hear a basic rhythm, the body starts to move. The I Ching describes music as an invisible sound that moves all hearts. Catch the wind. Track number 3 is an interesting one. It's called Remember the Alamo, and it was written by Texan Jane Bowers and displays Donovan's affection for American folk music, although to this point he had not yet been to America. The song details the final days of the Alamo conflict in which Texans attempted to fight off Mexican soldiers. This began on February 23rd, 1836, and lasted until March 6th of that same year. Now, the Texans lost that battle, but eventually gained their independence. It is unclear how many people died in the Alamo conflict. Figures range from between 182 to 257 Texans and 600 to 1,600 Mexicans. Texas declared its independence from Mexico that year, 1836, and effectively gained its independence after a win at the Battle of San Jacinto on April 21st, 1836. Then on December 29th, 1845, Texas became the 28th state in the U.S. following the Mexican-American War and the Oregon Treaty with Great Britain. Now, many Texans today are unhappy with some of the social liberties and direction of the U.S., and there is currently a bill known as the Texit Bill on the table to pursue the possibility of a Texas secession from the U.S. Next up is Cuttin Out, a hidden album gem, a cool folk blues with the accompaniment of bassist Brian Locking and drummer Skip Allen. In the song, Donovan brings back the character Josie. This song sounds nothing like Bob Dylan to me, and it shows Donovan's individuality and the strengths of his acoustic guitar playing and his affection for American blues. Track 5 is Car Car, Riding in My Car. It's Donovan's tribute to folk master Woody Guthrie. Guthrie wrote the song in the 1940s while living in Coney Island, New York, and it was written as a children's song. It's an interesting album choice. It's a great road trip, sing-along kind of a tune, and it sort of shows Donovan's more lighter side. Car Car, Riding in My Car. The final track of side number 1 on the original LP is Keep On Truckin', a fun, up-tempo, traditional folk song rearranged by Donovan in the style of an American jug band. There are some great instrumental breaks by Locking on the bass, drummer Skip Allen, and a man known as Gypsy Dave on the kazoo. Gypsy Dave is actually Dave Mills, a songwriter and sculptor. He was, at the time, a close friend of Donovan's, kind of his running partner, and the two even traveled together to India to study meditation. Mills passed away in 2019. Donovan keeps on trucking at 77. Let's check it out. All Alright, cats, let's flip the record, drop the needle on side number 2, track number 1, which is called Goldwatch Blues. Now, I really like this side of the album. It's a pretty eclectic mix of materials and is really well programmed. So anyway, Goldwatch Blues was written by Mick Softly, an English singer and songwriter and a key figure of the 1960s British folk scene. Softly is credited for teaching Donovan that signature guitar technique, that cross-picking guitar technique. And in return, Donovan used his early stardom to help his friend Softly get a record deal. And he did release several albums, but never broke through in the same way that Donovan did. Goldwatch Blues is quite an impactful song and a statement on the power of corporations and how the working man is merely a cog in the corporate wheel to be used up and disregarded. Here is the chorus, the lyrics to the chorus. Here's your gold watch and the shackles for your chain, and your piece of paper to say that you left here sane. And if you've got a son who wants a good career, just get him signed up on the dotted line and work for 50 years. Verse 3 is also quite remarkable. He took me outside to where the gravestones stand in line. This is where we bury them, in quickstone and in lime. And if you come to work for us, this you must agree, that if you're going to die, please do it during tea break. There you have it, Goldwatch Blues. Check it out. Track number 2 of side number 2 is To Sing For You, a slow ballad that sounds Dylan-esque. And basically the lyrics are about the power of music, the power of song, and how the narrator will sing to cheer up his lover or his friend. It's unspecified. But it's a fine song for sure, but certainly did not help Donovan with the Dylan comparisons. To Sing For You. Next up is You're Gonna Need Somebody on Your Bond, which is a gospel blues song attributed to American bluesman Blind Willie Johnson, who recorded the piece in 1930. Donovan's version was released as a single but did not chart. The recording includes bassist Brian Locking and drummer Skip Allen. It's a really fine blues performance. And songs like this one and Cuttin Out, which is also on this album, of course, really show that Donovan was much more than a folkie. This is one of the finer mid-1960s blues presentations by a white English musician during that era, and I think it's underrated. So check it out. You're going to need somebody on your bond. Track number 4 of side 2 is Tangerine Puppet, a beautiful finger-picked acoustic guitar instrumental showing Donovan's range as a musician. Dylan and most other popular folkies did not play guitar as well as this, and few of them even did instrumental pieces. So Tangerine Puppet is really a special track. I recommend it. Take a listen. This next one is an interesting one. It's called Donna, Donna. It's a 1941 song about a calf awaiting slaughter. The song was written by Shalom Segunda and Aaron Zeitlin, 2 Jewish writers, and it was written and performed in Yiddish, which is a West Germanic language that was spoken by Ashkenazi Jews. Very interesting, as I mentioned, and strongly delivered. Donna, Donna. Although reissue versions of the record include more tracks, the final track on the original LP is called Ramblin Boy, which is Donovan's creation, and it sounds very much like Bob Dylan's hit, It Ain't Me Babe. And it makes me wonder if the Ramblin Boy is meant to be Dylan. Probably not, but it's kind of an interesting thought. So anyway, Ramblin Boy, the final track, this is Donovan basically doing Dylan. All right, my friends, there you have it. We made it to the end of the record. Let's lift the needle off that record and put it away, and let's discuss. So in conclusion, Donovan's What's Been Did and What's Been Hid is a fine debut album from an artist who I believe is underappreciated despite his incredible popularity in the 1960s. Now, songs like Catch the Wind, To Sing For You, and Ramblin Boy support the comparisons between Donovan and Dylan. Donovan also includes enough variety on the record to show a degree of individuality, even as a teenager. He was only a teenager when he recorded this. His guitar playing is impressive for a folk artist, and with performances like Cutting Out and You're Gonna Need Someone on Your Bond, he shows that he's a pretty competent blues musician, quite good actually. And then covers like Remember the Alamo, Goldwatch Blues, and Donna show a great deal of maturity for a young artist. Interesting choices for songs. Donovan's music would continue to evolve. And by 1966, he began to study and incorporate elements of jazz, more blues, and Eastern music and philosophy. His music changed drastically during this period and beyond. And so did his status. He became much more popular as the 60s continue. So I think it's a good record, and I think we're better for listening to it. And there you have Donovan's What's Been Did and What's Been Hid. All right, my friends, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed today's program, and I'm glad you're listening, and I hope you continue to do so. To learn more about the program, go to 30albumsfor30years.com. Also, I want to just mention a couple places I'll be performing. So if you're listening to this in real time, some of these are private, some are public. Tonight, actually, I'm playing a political fundraiser for Congressman Frank Pallone, New Jersey Congressman. That's probably not open to the public. So Friday nights, Brandel Restaurant in Belmar, New Jersey. This on the 8th, that I'll be performing with Casey Noon. She'll be a guest singer there from the Vintage Vibe Tribe. And other Friday nights I'm there solo. Also Thursday, September 14th, and also Thursday, September 28th, the J Sweet Jam Session at the Long Branch Distillery, Long Branch, New Jersey. That's an evening event. We start at 7 o'clock. It's a great way to come and play if you're a musician living in the New Jersey, New York area, and you want to meet some other jazz musicians. That's the place. And let's see, also September 16th, the Vintage Vibe Tribe. I'll be appearing with them at the Holland Ridge Farms Flower Festival. I think that's Freehold, New Jersey. And September 30th with the James Popick Trio at the Wyatt Hotel in Rahway, New Jersey. Just check out my Facebook or Instagram for more details. Anyway, together, let's keep this music alive, my friends, and have a wonderful day. Peace.